Hello and welcome to the fifth video in this series of video tutorials for Cloudbuilt Level Editor. The previous video was a supplementary video showing off some changes in the patch and some assets that is commonly used and wasn't covered in the video before that for various reasons. So this video will be about tips and tricks, but first, let me just mention the wiki again. I just want to mention this is the wiki page, like you see here, and I'm going to add information about how to format text. Like there's some ways you can write text in the editor that can appear during gameplay for the player, and I will go through in the section here on the wiki how you format the text. You can set size and color and change aspects of the text, and I'll go through that there. One other thing we're going to add is a short tutorial about lighting and how to use lights and what to think about, and some tips for that one of our artists here done. It's coming up shortly, I hope. No promise on exactly when. And if you feel like you can contribute in any way to this wiki, we are super grateful if you help out and build upon it. Even if you just fill out things that you've learned from these videos or anything, we are super grateful. Okay, with that on the way, so let's go over what this video will cover. It's quite a lot actually this time. It's probably the longest video so far. So I actually got a drink with me here as well, so I can sip on now and then. So one thing we'll go over is commonly used tools more in depth, and actions as well. We'll go through hotkeys. We'll go through Snapp Grid and some user examples. We'll also go through some other more useful things like what I would like to call a palette, and also some cleanup examples. I'll take two sections of two levels and show just two tricks on them. Or maybe not tricks, just apply quick changes to them. I was thinking about taking more parts at more levels, but yeah, it takes time to go through and find parts that is really useful, so it's only end up with two. We'll see how much time I spend on that, depending on how much time we have. I'll do that in the end of the video. Oh, and one more thing we'll go through is debugging and tweaking, like gameplay of your level. So some tools and tricks you can use to better do that. And we'll also go through level block editing. Yeah, that's part of the tools and actions. Okay, so, and we also have one user question, and it concerns the beacon mode. Because there have been some changes to the script triggers, I'll go through that quickly again, how to set up beacons and the goal and things like that. Okay, so with that on the way, let's get started. I'll be using the in-house version of the level editor for this video because it's a little bit more up to date than the version that's live right now. But we'll even have one that's newer than this, but it's not working right now. So soon we'll have a patch with more updates that will even be a little bit better than the one you see here. I won't go over the changes that much, but one thing you will see, yeah, you'll see it later. But yeah, so let's start. Let's take this in order. So tools and hotkeys overview. So the first tool that everybody uses is, except the camera that we all gone through, is the. Oh, maybe I should go with the camera. I don't know if I showed you this. You go in camera settings, you can change the FOV, and that can be useful because most players play with 90 or higher FOV. So if you want the same kind of FOV that you are using when playing, you should change this. But I think it starts out on 50 or 60. And then speed and icon size. Icon size can be really useful if you have a hard time finding icons. You can even write a super high value here if you want to, but it's not that useful. Okay, so the first one tool that everybody is using is the selection tool. Let me load the level. It's easier to demonstrate. So let's just load the standard level. Oh, yeah. So this is one usual level that I often use for demonstration from the main game. So I gone through the selection tool a little bit before, but let's get into in-depth usage. So Q is the hotkey for the selection tool. If you just press something, you will select it, and it appears red. That's the target. If you shift select, you can select more objects at the same time. It's only one object that is red, and that's the target. Target is important in some cases because some actions operate on the target instead of operating on the group. But most of the time, you'll operate on the whole group. To remove something from selection, use Control. And if you want to toggle, use Alt. So if I select, let me select like these two lights here, and the sound cone. So if I want to select everything else now, I just hold Alt and drag select around, and now you see the lights and sound cone is not selected, but the others are. It can be useful sometimes, but I rarely use it. But I want to go over it anyway. One other very important aspect is the drag selection that I just showed you. Just click and drag. What will be selected actually what the objects that gets surrounded. The center of the object is what gets selected. So this box, for example, if I just overlap it, it won't get selected. I need to overlap the center of the box to actually select it. Okay. One other tool that is very useful is the grow selection. So if you press Shift Q, you will select everything that overlaps the current selection. You can press it many times and grow the selection. So now I have this whole section isolated. It's very easy to select. So if I just want that selection, that island, it can be very useful when tweaking levels and moving things around when the level is already decorated. One other thing that is very useful when decorating is that paint select. If you press T, you can actually paint select objects. Everything under the mouse will get selected. It's not the most useful tool, but it's actually toggleable because now you can't use the normal drag selection. I deselected the block there. So you have to press T again to get the drag selection. So you alternate between, you toggle between them. That's probably all about that. Oh yeah, like in this situation, it might be bothersome to go around and try to select all these. So here is the paint selection is useful. Just drag select, deselect, deselect, and deselect, and deselect, like that. It can be easier. Okay, so that's a selection tool. I'll go over to the translation tool or the move tool. It's on W. One thing that is important to know that all these move, rotate, and scale also have the selection tool underneath. So as long as you're not interacting with this tool, what do we call them? Tool something. I don't remember our official name, but yeah. Just like you can call it interface or something. As long as you're not interacting with it, you will be using the selection tool. But if you want to select something that's underneath here, it will get really hard because you're only interacting with a tool. So that's when you have to go to the selection tool, and that's really handy to remember that. Just press, if you want to select things, it's probably easier if you want to select many things and do more advanced selection options, or if you want to access the properties of objects quickly in a row, it's easier to use the selection tool than the manipulation tool, because now you can't select objects that are close by. Yeah. So this tool is more advanced than because it has more options. But with all tools, you'll see that Shift, Control, and Alt actually changes how the tool behaves. So for the translation tool, you can select one arrow and drag. You can select two arrows at a time and drag. You can select all arrows and drag it around. If you hold Control, you will access snapping. You will snap to the grid. You can see the grid now. You couldn't see that before, but now you can see it. That can be very useful, especially when you're using some special objects that are made for snapping. So that's to the control button. There's also one more snap option, and that is Control mid mouse button. Clicking, then you will snap the object to the ray trace that you're doing with the middle mouse. So you're ray tracing against the scene, and you'll place the tool on the tool origo, or what to call it, on the ray trace. So one more thing you can do that is more advanced is if you hold C and press anywhere, you will actually move the tool origo. So that can be useful if you want to move this object, but you want to look over here. You can just move the cursor and then align it with something, and then you will actually be moving the object over there. It's also useful if you want to say, I want this to be aligned with the wall, so I just press here to set the as soon as you press outside the tool with the left mouse button, you'll reset this. So I set the origo there and then snap move it. It can be useful at the times. Well, other thing that is very useful, you see this section is actually rotated. It's not the same rotation as this one. So if I want to move this along the axis of this block, I can just press A. Okay, I'd like to go through axis first. So you see this object, the axis, the arrows is pointing along the y-axis, the x-axis, and the z-axis. If I press Shift, you will align it with the object's local axis instead of the world. The default is the world axis, or the grid axis actually. So Shift will shift it to local. And that can be very useful when you want to move things along the local axis. For example, if I want to move this object along the wall, I can just use local axis. There's many situations where you want to use the local axis, so it's really good to have it quickly accessible. One other way to move something along the wall, let's say I have an object that is, you see, this local axis is actually quite, let's say this was rotated a bit like this, and I still want to move it along the wall. If I press local axis, you see I'll move it through the wall. It's not useful. But if I press A and then click on the wall, you will pick the local axis from the object you selected. So now I can move it along the wall. and that as soon as you press the mouse buttons anywhere, it will reset. But press A and it will be set back. And you can use this together with a Snapp Grid if you want to, but well, I should be able to, but apparently not. Okay, that's probably not what you want to do most of the time anyway. It should work, and we should fix that in the future. So the Alt tool is Alt is not that useful actually, but I got in most cases, in some cases it will be useful. So let's assume I want to move this and this along on the wall. You'll see it's impossible, but if I press Alt, I can actually move them along their own local axis. So they no longer act as a group, they act as individuals. I can show you the case where it's most commonly useful. So let's add a level block. So if I have this level block like this, I'll do this real quickly so it won't be looking that good. Let's say I have something like a turn like this on a curve. So if I want to make this curve larger, I'll have to hand move everything, or I can use Alt and then just move them along their own axis and then scale them. Okay. It should be scaling everything. This is very strange. I must have broken something recently. So you should be able to scale every object, not just the target object. So you should actually be able to do this better. But for now, I'll fix that before releasing the editor, the next patch. But yeah. Okay. So I had no good example of that then. Let's see, is there anything more about the move tool? I don't think so. Yeah, there's more. Actually, with a snap movement. So if I have this group selected and I want to snap move it, it moves as a group. If I press Alt and Control, it will move as individual objects again. So we'll be able to snap all objects to the same point. You see that they are all gathered there. If you press Shift and Control, you will only move the object along the normal of the selection. You'll see it's not moving in another direction than the normal I'm clicking on. Normal of the surface. That can be useful if you want to make. I think you can also move all things as objects only along the normal. That's maybe more weird. But it can be useful. Let's say you have a lot of level blocks on different heights and you want to make them all in the same height. Just Control Alt Shift. They are now in the same height, but they stay on the same X and C positions. Or you can use it to make them in the same axis on the X-axis, local axis. Yeah, you can probably find your own uses for it, but that's some examples. Okay, that's probably in-depth enough for the translation tool or move tool. So let's go on to rotation. Just rotate along axis like this. If you hold Control, you will snap rotate. How much you snap is actually accessed under the grid here. You can rotation snapping, you'll write it in degrees. So 22.5 is the standard. That gives you an easy way to find 45 degrees and 90 degrees rotations and so on. So the Alt key is the same as for the translation tool. It's about groups. If you don't, the default right now is that they are acting as individuals, but we'll probably change that soon so that they are acting as a group by default, and you're pressing Alt to make them act individually, like the translation tool. But right now it's Alt for rotating them as a group. Shift is like for the opposite from the translation tool, because it's more common to rotate things around their own local axis. So the default is local axis, but Shift will turn it to grid axis or world axis. You can see it's world axis for now. I'll talk about the grid later on. You can use Control Shift without problem here, and you can use Control Alt Shift without problem as well. And Control Alt as well. Okay, the same goes as for the other tool. I guess with the A key, you can take the rotation axis from another object, and you can also place the origo. So now, if you rotate, you'll still rotate them as individuals. But if you press Alt now, you'll rotate around the tool. Actually, so you can make objects rotate around certain points. So this can be useful. Let's demonstrate it. If you have an object like this, press Shift to move it along its own axis. So I can try to make them. Let's press C here and try to make them align. And then you press E for rotation tool and press C and select the right middle of the boxes, and then hold Alt, like I wrote it as a hinge. That can be useful. Anything more? Yeah, one thing that's very important is the same as before with the snapping. So if you press Control middle mouse button, you can align the object with the surface. So this is actually very useful, because if I have a object like this and I want to align it with this surface, it's very hard to align it properly. It will always be a little bit off. But if I snap rotate to this surface, now you see it's only off a little bit in the other axes, but then as soon as you snap rotate to two axes on the same object, you will be perfectly aligned with it. So now I know they are perfectly aligned, not in position, but in rotation. So if I want them to perfectly align them in rotation, in position, you can see it's hard to get there as well, because they are not perfectly aligned here. So if I want to do that without moving it there, I can just press C to place the object origo on the tool origo on the edge of this object, and then press Control Shift to align it with the same point on the other object. Now you can see if I move them, they are perfect overlapping. Sorry, I feel like I'm using some weird expressions here. Then my language is failing me, but I hope you can understand. Okay. That's probably all for the rotation tool, I think. Is there something more? I don't think so. Okay, so let's go on to the scale tool. That's probably the least advanced tool, because it's mostly used for level blocks. Most assets can't be scaled, like nothing happens, but level blocks can be scaled. There are some assets that can be scaled, but I also would recommend you to use them with caution. So you can snap with this one as well, but you can but you can't scale. You can't shift the axis. It will always be local axis when you're scaling. So that's probably almost all for the scale tool. You can't even snap. You can't scale it. Sorry, with the ray tracing or anything. So, and you will see the local axis like this when you're scaling, the green and blue and yeah. So that's all the most common tools up here. Of course, you have your copy paste and things. Or maybe I don't know if I've gone through copy paste before. So if I have these and I want to, I can just Control C, Control V, click somewhere, and they are placed there. That's simple. Yeah, that's probably all common tools. So let's go into the Snapp Grid. I had mentioned it before. So the grid you can access here, or you can just press Tab to access it. So you can do various settings here. You can see if I pick offset from selection, yeah, you can see that if I snapping this object, it's actually not on a grid position right now. But if I pick offset from the selection, it's actually perfectly on the grid, and the grid will be adjusted from the current object. If I say pick axis from selection, you will see that it will the world axis now will actually be, or the grid axis is the same as the local axis of this object. It can be very useful if you want to work with a section for a long time that actually is not aligned with the world grid. It's very, very useful to be able to just make the world grid, so to speak, aligned with the current working area. So like you see now, if I wanted to work with this wall right now, nothing is aligned with the wall, so I have to use local axis all the time, or it will be very, very bothersome. But if I select this object and pick axis from selection, now it will be local axis all the time by default. So even this object that is rotated, I don't have to hold shift or pick an axis or anything. It's by default in the space of the world, or space of the wall. Same goes for this. If I grow the selection this time, and this, I want to move it. It's easy to, yeah. I think you read it. So another thing is the size of the snapping. So right now, if I'm snapping, it's very small. But if I want to, let's say I'm building things out of floor tiles that are like this big. If I want to move, okay, the hotkey for make axis from selection is Shift A. Now we'll have the axis. It's the same as pressing this button. So if I want to place the next object, you see it's a little bit overlapping. It's not perfect. It's either overlapping, or it's either glap, a small glap. It's glap, I think. A gap. Okay, yeah, English hard. Me not speak. Okay, so if you pick size from selection, now actually, if I snap, you see the grid is much, much larger. It will be half the size of the object I selected. But now you see it's not aligning if I duplicate this and snap move, it's still not aligning. That's because of the origo I was talking about before, like pick offset from selection as well. Now if I duplicate this and move, it will align perfectly. So there's a hotkey for that as well. So let's say that I want to work with this instead. Press Shift A for aligning the axis. Press Shift S for picking size and offset from the current object, current selection. So that can be useful as well. Be aware of texture seams if you're not. So you shouldn't build large sections like this. Instead, let's show you how to do it instead. You can, because now the snapping also works on the scaling. So now it's the same. So remove one of them, scale this up 2 snaps, move it down. Oh, maybe 1 snap it was enough. Yeah, so you see everything is working with that grid size. It's going to be quite useful. To reset the Snapp Grid to the default values, press Shift D, and now it will be the world axis again, and it will be the small default grid, and it will be the default offset as well. So Shift A, Shift S, and Shift D. That's the hotkeys for the Snapp Grid, and Tab. Okay, that's useful mostly when working with the decoration, but also sometimes with level design. Okay, so let's go on to level block editing. So one thing that can be very useful is splitting a level block. You have a very large level block here. I want to split it in half or cut out a part of it. You can just edit, split level block. You'll see a red line. That's where you will split it. If you press Shift, you can rotate it 90 degrees. So let's split it there, and then you can see it's 2 blocks now. Then split it again, and then split it again, and 1 last time. Now you can see it's actually many blocks here. So I can delete this block, and now I have a hole, and there's no texture seams. So you can see the hatching is very, very large here. That's something that sadly happens now. Then the hatching values get very, very wrong, like morphed or even buggy at times. So that's a new option for that. If you just press Edit and recalculate all block hatching, now all blocks will have the default and recommended hatch size. That will work on the whole level. One warning though, if you have modified hatching to actually be different values, no, that's not that one. Oh, these are not actually controlled with history. That's I thought it was. It's the hatch scale. If you have actually manually edited the hatch scale, this will override that. And it's not creating any history events, so you won't be able to undo that. That is very useful. I would recommend it to just press this one once when you're done with the level, or whenever you see the hatching being wrong. Okay, so next up is if you want to build a house or a room. Let's say I want to make this into a tower. Just press Edit and hollow level block. You'll pick a wall size. Let's do 2. And now it has an inside. Use split level block to make a door. Oh, the tree is actually in my way here. Let's use filter and disable assets for now. Oh, you can see I actually happened to split there because the tool took priority over the HUD selection. So undo that. Okay, yeah, it's undone. So let's press Y for the last action again. Oh, I didn't mention that before. Y is last action. Like that. Now we have it inside. Calculate. And then put on assets again. So yeah. Sync face tool. So let's assume you have texture something. Okay, let's change the floor here. Let's place another texture. Floor. Let's use this one. Let's say I want to use that for the roof as well. Let's be happy with that. So let's select this block here and let's change the inside of the wall. So wall. Well, let's use this one. It's weird to use this one when the outside is still concrete. So if I want to make the other walls the same, I can use edit sync block face, alt to sample and then press on the click on the surface and then use shift and click on the surface. You can sync the other surfaces to be the same. You're probably selecting the tree right now, so this is not helping. Okay, so I need to filter the assets again. Like that. And yeah, let's just apply the same on the roof. Okay. So it looks the same from outside, but it's changed the inside. That's been very useful, especially when you have more advanced surfaces. So this one actually has a normal map for it as well. It's called temple thin wall. Okay, so let's change the material. So let's use base deferred material NRM. That's normal map. It's not the best name. So temple thin. Oh no, it's temple thin wall norm. It's named. So now this wall section has normal map on it, but not the other ones. So you can use it. It will sync the normal map and it will sync the material and everything. So now it looks much more 3D. Mostly visible if you add lights. Oops. So yeah, you can see the size of the stone is actually lit up. Most surfaces in the game don't use normal maps, but these temple stones all have normal maps for them, and that's the recommendation. If you're working with the temple theme, use the normal maps. It helps to make the walls feel much better. Okay, so this video is getting quite long already. Maybe I'm going into too much detail. So that's probably all for the level block editing. So let's go over to talking about the palette I was talking about before. That's a quite useful trick. So normally if you try to start 2 instances of the level editor from Steam, it won't let you. Let us show you what it looks like. So if I want to play, I have a level editor open, I want to launch level editor again. Let's wait for it. Yeah, failed to start game. App already running. But if you go to properties, local files, browse local files, when you go to the community level editor, you will be able to start it. So this allows you to have multiple level editors running at the same time. This is mostly useful when you have 2 monitors, so you can use one for working and one for more reference and stuff, references and things like that. But I'll be using our level editor as well for this. So let's open up another instance of level editor. Okay. So I'll actually be making this a little bit smaller. So I'll open a level that's called this is level we created. This asset palette we call it. This is actually just a quick, like a spread of mostly commonly used assets in a theme. So this is the palette we used for all the standard levels for the game, not the temple levels or any of the DLC, but this is an easy way for us to find and view and consider the shape and color of things. Of course, the inside of the room I'm working with now is of the temple theme, just because of that. But you can see that if you look at the tree here, when I have the other editor selected, the frame rate is really low here. But if I have this one selected, it's smooth. So the inactive level editor will run in really low FPS to enable as high performance as possible with the active level editor. So if you select something here and then press Control C and then select the other editor, Control V, and pick something, you can actually move objects over to this editor. Use snapping, rotation snapping to align it with the surface. So I probably want all of these over. Let's Control C and move it over. So I want this one here. Yeah, you can see what I'm doing. So you don't have to cover the whole surfaces, as long as the material under the surface is syncing up reasonably with the objects you're working with. Just give the illusion of more 3D depth and details is enough for most part. So that goes for corners and surface areas here and there. Don't cover the whole thing. It will be more expensive and will look more cluttery. So just this one is actually weird because we are using a different texture underneath, but it can work as well. It's up to you to find how to use it to your taste. But I find these palettes quite useful, and you can also, like you see here, have whole parts done. You can just grow the selection and copy, paste, rotate, align it like that, and then move it up.
You can have a whole other levels as reference as well, like copy parts from a level. Like, okay, I want this wall into the palette. Control C, and let's place it over here, like that. And I can use it in another level if I want to, and easily access it. So you can have one scene that use a palette, and you build it up over time, and you have objects or combination of objects that you like to use a lot, and you have a quick access. You can of course add them in a normal way, but then you need to know the name or have good filters or look for the image, and it can be more easy to have a palette. That's one recommendation. That's real tips for my part at least, and we used it a lot during development. You can also take a large chunk of these ones and place in the level if you want to, like place them somewhere that you know you can easily remove later. So you can just place them here in the air and then reference it quickly, and yeah, I want a copy of that one, place it over here, and then I want this one and place it over there with the snap rotation, move it out on the surface a little bit. Okay, yeah, you understand. And when I'm done, I just drag select and delete. Yeah, so that's the palette. Okay, so I written here that I will do a quick user case, and I will build a big a quick house as an example. So new scene. So let's create a house here with many floors and so on. So let's make a box for the outside of the house first. Let's make it taller. Let's place the entrance a little bit up so you can have a basement of some sort. Or yeah. So let's hollow it. Let's make the wall thickness 3 and hollow. And let's cut it open. Somewhere along. If I look here, I want to place it on this. So the default size of this grid size on the default texture is actually half a meter, about half a meter from one square. So you can know that you are aligning with half meters if you are aligning with the default texture square. And make sure that it's aligning with the bottom. If you are aligning with it, like not in top here, you can see it's not aligning perfectly. Okay. Then let's cut one more. The door height should be enough with like that. Let's cut it here, and then one last here. So that's our door. So let's create floors. So the hollowing, if you look from beneath, it's actually the bottom and the top is actually fitting inside the hollowing perfectly. That's made to make it easier to actually make buildings with open tops or bottoms, or actually make floors from this. So let's use this as a base for the floor. Let's duplicate it and move it up in height with the entrance. So let's make room for the stairs. Let's split level block, line it with there, and then we make room for in each end to actually stand in front of or behind the stairs. Now let's rotate this for a good angle for the stairs. Move it down. Let's move it over to. So this is a situation where the move origo of is useful. So yeah, that's okay alignment. So you can see it's sticking through the floor. Maybe this is the basement and we want to make this floor a little bit shorter than the others. So let's stick with this for now, and let's select all objects here. Let's all the blocks. Let's press Control A, Control S, no Shift S and Shift A and Shift S, and let's duplicate this. Actually make that the target and press Shift S again. So move it up somewhere along here. Should be a good height for the roof. So let's align this again to actually work with the opening we made. Let's make it longer first. Move it around the local axis. Rotate it around the hinge until I think it fits. It's actually hard to make perfect, but perfect is maybe something like that. So let's scale it around the local axis again, and then move it around the local axis. Something like that. Yeah, that works for me. So now let's make more floors. Now you can make how many floors you want actually from this. But if you use snap move now, they want to have the same distance. But if you remember that we used this other selection as a snap, like the snap offset, we can select all this again and show you how to set it up. So select all these for this floor, and let's open up the Snapp Grid. Pick offset from selection. Then select the next floor, and then pick size from selection position, and from the position of this selection, pick offset with y-axis. Now you see a line, and that's actually the size of the grid now. So if you snap this, duplicate and snap this, it will align perfectly. All the floors will have just as good be just exactly like the way we spent a lot of time building one floor, and then we made all the floors the same and reused that. So let's generate abstracts and try walking into our house. All we're missing are some windows. Too many floors. Yeah. So that's quite a tall house for you. And of course you make windows with a Snapp Grid. So let's go inside here and make windows. What was it I wanted to say? So yeah, if you open up the Snapp Grid, you can see how tall a floor is actually. You can see that it's 28 point, some decimal number, and that can be useful if you want to align more things with the height of the snapping the floors. Sorry. So let's divide this by 4. Let's open up the calculator. Oh, let's copy the value into the calculator. Yeah, it's not taking the decimal, but yeah, divide by 4. Copy, paste, but probably something like that. So now if we are using the split level block, it can actually snap to the, it should snap to the grid. Of course, nothing is working right now. Let's leave that for now. It's just taking too much time, but you should be able to snap more things to the size of the building if you're using something like this. Let's just make one window for now. Quite large windows, but yeah. Yeah, that's even the same size, right? No, that one is 4 and this one is 3. Okay. You can also use objects, like place a small block and make it the size of the different areas that you want. So you know that, okay, we want this size from the floor, for example, and then want this size from the ceiling. And then you move these objects up, and you use this as measurement when you are cutting the next windows. You get them roughly the same, but I wish I could use the Snapp Grid to show you how to make it exact, but many times exact is not necessary. Okay. Whoa, 58 minutes. Nice. Not nice. I didn't take too much time. So let's go on to debugging. I'll probably not show you any specific yeah, okay, let's use this level as a base for the debugging. Let's take this as a, so let's say I'm building a complex situation with enemies, and I want to see how the enemies behave when I'm not around, or how they behave when I get around. That's a good case for using the debug camera. The debug camera is a little bit unstable though, so when using the debug camera, make sure to save often. Before you start playing a level, I would recommend you to always, if you're happy with what you have done, press Ctrl S to save the level. So let's just save this as house. Okay, so let's add a walker, like an arachnoid. So it's aggro area. Let's control the aggro area. it should be something like this. Okay, and let's make control points for it. It's just moving like that. Yeah. A square. You can also use, of course, use Snapp Grid for this as well, but it's not that exact. So save, start playing. Now I can't see what the reactor is doing unless I'm trying to look around the corner like this. And there might be a situation where that's too complex, and if I want to see what it's doing when I'm not really close by, I can use just to reverse home and enter the debug camera. Oh, it's a little bit slow. We'll make it faster soon. So now you can see what it is doing. And if you press insert, you can get a small view of the player in the corner. So it might be good to record this because it might be hard to look at two things at the same time. But if I want to see what happens when I run around the corner when a ractoid is over at the other side of this platform. And then I run back and hide from it. Oh, sorry. I looked at the wrong screen. Let's do this again. You can see it stops following me as soon as I go outside the aggro area. So maybe that was not what we wanted. Let's change the aggro area to make it larger and cover this whole section. So save, because it might crash now if you are not saving. No, it's working. I wish I had this quicker debug camera. So let's see now how it reacts. Now you can see that it actually walked around the corner quite well. Oh, I generated the abstracts, of course. Okay, it can be really useful for more complex situations. This is very simple, so you don't really need the debug camera for this. But also, if you're making larger levels, pressing Ctrl F5 for spawning at the camera is very useful. Also, one thing when you're playing a level from the start. Let's say I'm playing here and I see something I want to change. If you press Shift Escape, you will exit in place. You'll exit out of the play session into the editor, and the camera will be in the position where you was when you were playing. So you can start editing the level. That's useful for polish. One more thing, if you want to see more detailed how enemies reacts or how things timing and things like that, you can change the game speed by pressing. In this build, it's actually M plus colon, but comma, but it's in the real build it's just comma for it's lowering the game speed. You can go quite low. Now you can see timings and everything very detailed. You can also increase the speed quite a lot. So now if I M plus. It's not as useful, I would think. I don't know any situation where I really want to use this high game speed. But yeah, you might find it useful if you're waiting for things, and like if you have something that has very slow timing, or want to see like, oh, what happens with this Arachnid in the long run. But it's more demanding to use a high game speed, just so you know. Because it's actually running more frames in the background. It's not skipping any frames or anything like that. Okay, like if you press M in the real build, you will reset the game speed to the default value. Also, one more thing: if you're building this level, let's say I really don't want. I have a specific design in mind, and I have placed. I want this wall running section. I don't want the player to grab hold to the top here, so I placed spikes there, like this. Rotate alignment. So I placed spikes. Local axis translation. Oh. I really don't want the player to grab onto anything here, but as you might find, it's hard to make. Oh, of course, it's aligning perfectly. So let's make this whole section a bit shorter, like this. Now you can see it's not aligning perfectly, so I might want to create a small gap between the objects to make up for so they cover the whole section. But then there will be small gaps between the spikes, and for the most part this is too small to actually generate abstracts. You see, there is. Now we can debug this, but because you can see the edges, so you can see there is no edges generated here. This is not enough space to actually grab onto. And if I move this like this and generate abstracts, you can see it generating edges. So now you can debug and see you can grab onto this. Same goes for if you have a wide wall and you maybe there's area like that. You know, you can see that it's generating edges. This one is thin. That means that you can't. It's judging that you can't climb up on it, but you can grab onto it. So let's move this down a little bit. Now you see it's generating edges here as well, but these edges are actually yellow. That indicates that it's an edge that the player will react to, but you can't grab onto it. So there's three types of edges: red edges, yellow edges, and thin red edges. So if I just move this a little bit down here and generate abstracts again, you can see it disappears. So it's very important, especially if you have a specific design in mind. Make sure to generate abstracts, and then we can filter them on and off with pressing 6. And you can go over the level and make sure that, okay, I don't see any edges of the wrong type in any of the places. You can see, okay, I can grab onto these walls. So one other thing I wanted to actually talk about is physics blocks. Sorry. So add physics box. Let's turn off the abstracts. This is a box that will be invisible, but it will have collision. So if I, for example, don't want the player to be able to move through here, and let's say that we think it's actually logical enough, so we don't have to show the visual cues of that to the player, we can actually place collision here. And now if you generate abstracts, it won't have any edges there. Take position, and I can no longer jump through them. But actually my shots will also hit them. Right now there is no way of building collision shapes that only the player will hit. Okay. So what's more? That's probably the most important things I wanted to go through in this video. It's quite a lot, so you might need to watch it one time, try it out and based on levels, and then go back and watch it later again to see if there's things that you missed or forgot about or things. Because the more of these things you know and can use without thinking, the quicker you will build your levels, especially when it comes to decorating levels and things like that. Having a good understanding of and reflexes with the move and translation and snapping and rotation and things like that is very important for the speed. Okay, so let's move on to the quick examples I was going to show you, but it's not. I don't think we should spend too much time on it. So one example is this. You see the hatching is very wrong, and it's actually on all these blocks. So going in and fixing this on all these blocks is a lot of work, and especially when the hatching is small or very, very large, it can look quite bad because you really see a repeating pattern. But this is easily fixed with just it's not working. Huh. That's never happened before. Okay, let's restart the editor. I never seen that before. This is turning into a long video, like I said. So let's try it again. It is not working. Wonderful. I wanted, at least it should be working when you get this version. I will make sure to fix this. So this should fix all your levels. Like if it looks like this or any other way. There's also actually if you're scaling them a lot of different ways back and forth and change, you can see that it's actually splitting the block up. If you're doing a lot of this, it's a higher chance of actually screwing things up, but of course it's working well now. But there's also other bugs with the hatching that can happen. So yeah, my tips is just to make sure you are doing your use that action on your levels when you're done. So this is another example. I really like this because this is from a level, and I think this is great for prototyping. It's just thrown out quickly, and it's working enough for a proof of concept. It don't look super good, but it's working for proof of concept. You don't care about the texture looking perfect or anything. It's just placing things. But one thing you can do quickly to make it look a little bit better is just using the rotation snapping. And this is might also be important for gameplay actually, because if it's like this, you will actually hit the block in different or different timing maybe, or different heights depending on where you're jumping, and that's maybe not part of what you want. Maybe that's not part of the challenge you want to build. So make sure you're aligning things properly, and you won't run into that. Now you can see it's perfectly aligned with this block. So just remember to align things. It's especially when it comes to gameplay objects. It's very easy to do. And you can see now one more thing. The red line here indicates you can see where it ends. It's probably inside this block, right? Yeah. So this is indicate how you get pushed when you enter this field. You can see it's actually not straight. I can imagine when the one who built this wanted to make it straight, go up the ramp. To do that, press this object, press A, and press Shift A, press Shift S. Now you will have a snap grid of that object. If you are, where is it? I lost it again, didn't I? Yeah, there. Okay, so just hold Control and move along the x-axis. Now it's perfectly straight. You can move it another axis really, but it's perfectly straight. And that can be very useful. Also, you can notice with the latest build, actually the prediction lines for the jumps is working with other than the small ones. So you can actually see the prediction of this jump. Now you can see the stop control if you want that as well. So I think it should be like this. When you're just testing out an idea, make it as quick as possible. Build it something like this, and when it's working and you think, oh, this is a good idea, then I took a quick time and built this before. It's not exactly the same idea, it's just an iteration on it. And I used more precise movement rotations and made it more smooth. And I selected the right material for the mirror surfaces and applied it to all of it. And I picked this push fields that aligned better with the surfaces and didn't stick through in the same way, and yeah, everything like that. And I think it's to make the gameplay feel better and things that look better. You need to take it a step further than this in the long run. But for prototyping, this is perfect. Because one thing with this, it's hard it can be quite hard to reproduce the exact same results over and over. The more misaligned things are, the rougher things are, the easier the harder it will be for players to play the same, like to actually judge the challenge and interact with it as they intend. So I would recommend to take time and do some extra polish and actually make sure to align things, at least like that. And if you have time, build it smoother, especially when these things, and make it look good if you can, if you want. It's optional, of course, and at least it's just my opinion and things like that. This is great for creativity, and then one step further, maybe. I don't even think that this maybe not even what the original creator of this challenge had in mind. It's just my take on something I got the inspiration from this when I put a little time on creating this. So to make this, these are exact same angle on all these rotations because I used the Snapp Grid. So we can write the value that we want to use and then snap to that. And this is, I made one of these and reused it for every part. So they are exactly the same size. And I used local axes and alignment and things, and just built this. And I grow this. I make the selection larger and larger every time. So I just had to build it, this part, and then it just duplicated quickly up the rest. It takes time to build this, so making whole level with a high polish level takes time, and that's something that you will have to expect if you want to make a high level when it comes to polish and looks and appearance. It will take a lot of time. I'm super impressed by a lot of levels that I've seen from the community, and it's super fun to play them. And I understand that the very few levels have actually been polished when it comes to how they look, because it's extremely time consuming to make a whole level look good. To go through everything and place objects, you get faster at it as the more you do it. But I might maybe try to make a video in future showing examples of how I think it's you can go about it and make it less painful. But it will always take time. I think that for our artist that decorated most of the levels, I think it took him a week of work to make one level look good, from blocks to final results. And the larger levels, the longer time it will take, of course. And yeah, so I understand that most won't probably spend that time on a level just for the looks. But if you do, I'll try to make a video. If you're interested in the future, let me know if you're interested in that. If there are enough people interested in actually getting more tips and tricks on how to decorate levels, I'll make a video for you later on. But right now, I hope this is enough to get you going and mostly focused on gameplay. And I think that's probably most of what people want anyway. Custom levels is mostly about fun, I think, and gameplay is enough for fun. And the levels look good enough, I think. I had a lot of fun playing custom levels, so it's not meant to be any kind of rant or like saying that people don't do good enough stuff. But I just I really like the things that I have done. I just wanted to mention the decorations because I know it's something that some people might want to do, but it's really time consuming, and there's actually no huge shortcut that you can take. It will take a lot of time. That's probably all we have time for. I was first planning to actually show you how I built this section and how I adjusted this section to the jump. Like I can see the curve here, and like I said, I used this to actually show the curve when I was selecting this, moving it. I could view the curve and adjust everything after it, and so on. Actually, something that I can maybe show off, that when it's smooth like this, you can actually use fewer push fields because the force gets transformed better with the curved surface. I'm not saying anything useful anymore. Sorry, this video is dragging out. So on to the last thing. That's the user question. I hope this video is not too long. I'll try to add annotations actually this time, so you can go to the different chapters. But on to user questions. User question. So let's do this level. How to build beacon mode. So of course you have to go in on the beacon mode on the editor settings. This is the panels. All the panels that are, and these are the hotkeys. I got a question about that as well. What hotkey I was pressing, and when I go into run options, it was F6, and this is a command line you can write things in. So F6 is the run options. F3 is the level settings. F2 is the intro and outro cinematics, and F1 is the building the level. So under F3, you can go to I'm not using, so I cannot demonstrate the game modes, but I can actually demonstrate it through command line instead, because I'm not using the community editor. This is a more raw, if I may say so, version of the editor. So let's add gates, challenge gate, and door exit gates, and light pillar gates. So if you're using the other door exit, it won't work by default for the beacon mode, and same with the green light pillars. So let's add these to the level. Let's actually add another door. Exit door, and then add a light pillar. Green light pillar green. Oh. So like, you know, they're disappearing if you get too close, or if you don't see them. Remember to zoom out. So if you go into on these properties, it has no keystring actually. But if you look at the door, it has also no keystring. I thought that they would have that. Maybe I should choose the wrong one. No, I didn't. So let's see how this works. I'll go and edit these things, because I think they should have a keystring here. But let's see if it works without that. So this is the exit for the gates, and this is the light pillar for the gates. Well, it's called gates in the editor, but it's beacons in the game. So let's place 2 beacons here. So also let's add the exits. So script trigger, scale it up, okay, like that, and make it to the trig level complete. Let's move it over. So let's just see what happens if I play this now. There are no gates visible there, and that light pillar and door is actually not there. But if I run over here, I complete the level because of this trigger. The same goes for the other door. I complete the level. So this is clearly not working. So to make the door and the gates to appear, or the beacons, I go to run options. I can press T gates with capital G, or you can just select game mode from the community editor that actually using beacons. Now you can collect the beacons. You can see, but you can still see that door. But now I can also see that door as soon as I collected all of them. But there's no exit. Okay, so let's fix all this. So you can see disable keys is gates. So when I wrote gates, that actually a tag is under the surface, and that activates this mode. And this exit will the default exit will disappear on gates. If you remove this, it will be there in all modes. So it will be there in gates, but it will be there from the beginning, even if I haven't collected these. And that's not what we want. So what I need to do is enable key. If you look at the door here, you can see gates complete. That's a key that gets set under the surface as soon as I collect all the gates. So on enable key, paste gates complete. On the disable key, you don't have to have anything, because gate complete will only happen when gates is collected. So now nothing happens when I run over here. When I collect these, the door is there, and when I run over, I complete the level. That's how it should be. But we don't want this door and this light to be here when it's not used. So add keystring -gates. -gates. So as soon as gates is defined, when the level is loaded, they won't get loaded. So now you don't see an exit at all. When you collect them, you can see them. So that's what you have to do to make beacon mode work. Make sure that the normal exit is not has the minus gates tag, and add a new goal that has the gates complete tag and the same goes for the green light pillar, and then also make this script trigger for the goal have gates complete on enable key. Okay, so that's all for that, and I hope that was all you want to know. And actually, this we need to go through. Felt I needed to go through this because of new triggers, and you can actually see some more new triggers. Let's demonstrate them real quickly here. From the list, you can actually see this is the new kill trigger. You know what it does. Change music is a new one. You can actually set a music you want for the level, and you can change it mid-level. So let's make 2 of these. Let's make them distinctly different. Maybe I've mentioned this before, I don't know. Are they not working? Oh, they might not be working. Let's see. We're not using the latest version of the level editor, so I can't bring out the option screen. When the latest version arrive, you can bring out the option screen during gameplay in the editor by pressing F1. So maybe I turned off music in the option screen, so I can't hear it here. Okay, so let's add another script trigger. That's the good bad demonstration. One that I said I added before, but wasn't actually added was the time dilation. So now I can actually change the game speed during gameplay. That's maybe useful if you want to make a really intense action sequence or something, or if you want to make something dramatic, or mostly probably when you're making a tutorial level or something like that and want to demonstrate something. It's much easier to pull off advanced moves when you get more time to react. Yeah. Now the trigger is I shouldn't go into this too much. Sorry. Damage over time. That's a new one. Let's try the default values. That was weird. Default values. Did I really set that like that? It should be 3 damage, and interval should be 0.2. I thought that was the default values I used. Yeah, it's maybe not that useful, but together with other options, like you can see, I have an armor absorb that's default to 0. As I set 3 damage there, so armor absorb 3 now. I can actually walk into this area and I will not take damage. Maybe there's a level I can use to demonstrate this better. So I made this level before real quickly. Yeah, I cannot jump. I have no energy, and I have really little health. So if I go over to this, I don't need many shots to actually die. And this is a new pickup I made that can change the player's stats. It's actually increasing my health every time I take one of these. So now if I take damage, I can take many more shots. and like this is energy. But I cannot jump in the air right now. But I can dash, and I can wall run. But this is actually a damage of time area. But if I go over here, this pickup is you can now use air boost. So now I can jump in the air. So up there is another one. That's armor upgrade actually. So now I don't take damage in this damage area. So you can build more complex levels by giving the player stats and changing things over time. Oh yeah, and like you saw with the turrets, you can actually configure them a little bit more now. Yeah, so that's probably all. That's more. That I didn't plan to show that off, but there you go. Now make a Metroidvania level with these things. Easy, right? No, that's probably the hardest thing you can do, especially if you're going to make it look good and interesting to explore. But you have the tools now. I'm looking forward to it. Actually, I'm looking forward to play all the levels. So if you have any level, like I will try to take time now and then to play all new community levels. So just let me know, and if you want me to give feedback on levels as well, I can try to do that as well. Like always, you can find me and the others on other developers. We read every comments, and we read on the YouTube, and we read on Steam forums and on Reddit, and we hang out there and talk as well. I at least make sure to check it every day. So if you want to get hold of me or just hang out, just head over there and talk. You can find most of the top players hanging out on Reddit and posting tips and tricks and runs and their custom levels and talking. So head over here if you want to hang out. And that's probably all for now. I'm not sure when the next video will be and what it will be about. It depends on what you want to see. And for now, I don't have any more ideas for videos, unless you have questions. I'll try to answer questions as fast as I can, and that will be in text form. But if there are more complex questions like the gates, like beacon mode, I will do a quick video with them. So that's all for now, I think. I hope you find this video interesting and useful and not too long. And see you all soon, I hope, in another video or stream or on the forums. Bye for now. Thanks for watching.